I have two questions. Let's tackle the first one first, which is it seems that, I'm part of Gen Z, my generation and millennials, sort of. It seems that that's the sentiment throughout that, I don't. What's privacy nowadays? I
Yeah,
love posting myself out there. I love posting my selfies, my tweets, all of
yeah,
it. So there seems to be this notion that we don't understand the magnitude and importance of having a private life. And that in itself is driving this conversation like, hey, they're open to it. Just let's keep plowing. Let's keep doing it. So
yeah. Mhm.
what's the first thing that you say to Gen Z when they say, privacy? I don't care. Let them say
And
whatever they want.
millennials, right? So I'm a millennial, and I actually understand the sentiment because it feels like an uphill battle. And I think that it's the what our mind jumps to, and like the examples that you mentioned is like, yeah, of course, if you have control and you put something out there on social, that's your decision to do. Now, still, like it could be that this is going to be abused in the future. For me, one of the helpful thought experiments is think about the offline equivalents, right? Like if I say your phone tracks your GPS records continuously and knows exactly what you do at any given point in time, that's like having a stalker walk behind you 24. That person would go to jail. And I doubt that you would feel super comfortable having that person walk behind you 24/7. Now, you might be fine saying, like, okay, this person sees what I put out there on my poster about my life and like the speech that I gave about what I had for lunch, which is like what we post on social media. But you probably wouldn't feel great about them kind of trying to figure out everything about you in a way that you have no control over. Same with the messages that you send, right? Imagine like the mailman going through your letters, if you still know what those are,
Mhm.
um, and just reading those. That person again would go to jail. So there's like, if you think about the offline equivalents of everything that we do online, and all of the traces that again we don't really intentionally put out there. I think that really kind of highlights the point of why privacy, we still care about it. I think the problem that we have is right now in the online world, it's a trade-off that we have to make, right? It's a choice that I have to make that says either you care about your privacy and then you can't use the products at all. So if you really don't want to, if you want to protect your privacy, you don't use social media, you don't use a credit card, you don't use a phone. If that's the choice that we have, obviously the brain is going to pick, I'm going to stick with the phone, I'm going to stick with social media, and I'm going to stick with my credit card because that's convenient. There's just no way of living modern life without all of these gadgets. So the solution that I've been thinking about a lot is how do we eliminate this trade-off, right? We can't just put the burden on Gen Z and millennials and say, well, you grow up and try to do a better job protecting your privacy because it's impossible. What we need is like these technologies that say, well, can I give you the same service, convenience, personalization, ability to communicate what you want to the world without having the risk of your data being abused? And there are technologies that do that, right? I think there's one of the ones that I discuss in the book, which I think a lot more people should know about, is called federated learning, which is the idea that for you to benefit from the intelligence that companies provide, right? Netflix. We all benefit from Netflix making recommendations because there's so many movies that you would never be able to find what you're looking for if you were doing it all by yourself. So we benefit from Netflix understanding our interests. But there's a world in which you could say, well, instead of Netflix collecting all of my data, understanding who I am, training their model centrally to kind of improve their recommendations, what they could do is they could say, well, we have this intelligence. We know that someone who likes Titanic also likes Love Actually, and someone who likes Robocop also likes Terminator. We're going to send this intelligence to your phone or to a local device where your data sits. So your data essentially sits on your phone, never leaves that safe harbor, but it locally updates. So because your phone is a supercomputer, your phone is essentially so much more powerful than the computers that we used to launch rockets to space with a few decades ago. So you can take Netflix's intelligence, send it to the phone, update locally. So it now understands based on the movies that you've watched that there's also other movies that go with Love Actually and Titanic. What you do is you send the intelligence back to Netflix. So we still all benefit. I benefit from you watching a lot of movies because the recommendation system gets better. But I don't need your data for that to sit in the central server. I can just have it locally. And that's a way in which I think we can get around this burden of saying, well, you just need to understand what data you want to share, what you don't want to share, and manage it yourself. Because that's an uphill battle that we're, I think, really not equipped to take on.